Okay, continue on with the second section in Chapter 8. Sorry, that last video ran a little long, so we had to break it up and break up Part 2. So in this section, it's a much shorter video, we're going to talk about the development of aggression. If you're following along in your book, we're on Section 8-2F, the development of aggression. Now, often when preschoolers are aggressive, it's instrumental or possession-oriented, meaning they want to get a certain toy. They want to keep their toy. They want a certain place in line, something like that. It's very goal-oriented. As they get a little bit older, preschoolers tend to grow out of that aggressiveness and are more likely to resolve their conflict by sharing rather than fighting. Now, if aggressive behavior continues, that preschooler who's being aggressive is often going to be rejected by his or her peers. If aggression still continues or is used, typically aggression is now by age 6 or 7 more hostile and more oriented towards the person, a particular person. So it's no longer instrumental or about getting possessions. It's about directing that those feelings towards a particular person. Now, boys are more likely than girls to show aggression, and it has been shown that aggressive behavior early on does tend to be actually pretty stable and predictive of social and emotional problems later. 8-year-olds who were more aggressive, looking at them later when they were 22, they were more obviously more aggressive than their peers. When they were adults, they were more likely to have criminal records, be spouse abusers, and also have problems drinking while driving. Now, some of the theories of aggression. There are psychological ones, social ones, and biological ones. So let's take a look here first at biological. Now, there may be some genetic factors involved in aggressive behavior, as well as criminal and antisocial behavior. If you look at monozygotic twins, meaning identical twins, those who fully share their genetic code, you will see that if one twin is aggressive, the other one is more likely to be aggressive as well and have problems with criminality, antisocial behavior, and that sort of thing. Dizygotic twins, who are just no more similar than other brothers and sisters, don't seem to have those same sorts of numbers. Also, if the child truly believes in that aggressiveness is the right way to resolve an issue, then they are more likely to engage in that aggressive behavior. Aggressive children sometimes have been shown to lack empathy, lack that perspective taking that we were talking about before. And on a environmental level, kind of a nurture kind of thing, reinforcement of aggressive behavior, reward, and also observational learning can contribute to aggressive behavior. We know through Bandura's Bobo doll study, if you guys remember back from Psych 1, that video media can have an influence on aggressive behavior. Remember, Bandura looked at children who observed a model being aggressive with a Bobo doll versus a model not being aggressive with a Bobo doll, and the children who watched the aggressive model were more aggressive than the Bobo doll than the children who weren't. What does that translate into today? Well, some statistics. Children who watch 2 to 4 hours of TV a day will see 8,000 murders and 100,000 acts of violence by the time they've finished elementary school. So if we're equating that with the Bobo doll experiment, we have kids seeing a lot of aggressive behaviors, lots of violent behaviors, and children do seem to learn aggression through observational learning. The research shows that media violence and aggressive video games do increase levels of arousal, and humans are more likely to be aggressive under high levels of arousal. Now, we also know, or we can also look at it as our folks who do folks who enjoy aggressive video games and media violence, are they just pre-wired to enjoy that sort of thing and become more aroused and more aggressive? So it's kind of a chicken and an egg sort of idea, in that we know viewing media violence makes us more aggressive, and aggressive behavior might might cause us to view more media violence. And we know that a genetic predisposition towards aggressive behavior might result in not only viewing more media violence, but also acting out those aggressive behaviors. Now here you can see, just as, and I've linked to this in your class resources, but this is just some stills from the Bobo doll experiment, and the top line of photos, the stills, you can see the model acting aggressively with the Bobo doll. You can see she's sitting on it and punching it. She's throwing it in the air. She's hitting it with a hammer, and she's kicking it. And you can see the little boy kind of doing the same sorts of things, sitting on it, punching it, throwing it, hitting it with a hammer, kicking it. And the little girl as well, doing all the same sorts of things, sitting on it, throwing it, hitting it with a hammer, and kicking it. Now, we know that depictions of violence can contribute to violence through some different kinds of things. Observational learning. We know that children learn from observation. And TV violence supplies models of aggressive skills, and children can acquire that. Disinhibition. This is the idea that punishment inhibits behavior. So media violence can disinhibit aggressive behavior, especially when characters get away with it. So if we see characters on TV getting away with violent or aggressive behavior with no punishment, no consequence, then we're more likely to act out our own aggressive behavior because we're not feeling as inhibited. Increased arousal. We know that media violence and aggressive video games do increase viewers' levels of arousal, and we're more likely to be aggressive. Priming of aggressive thoughts and memories. Media violence primes or arouses those aggressive ideas and memories. And habituation. We become used to repeated stimuli. Children who are exposed to violence are more likely to assume that violence is acceptable, is normal, and become desensitized to it. So the more we view it, the more we start to think it's the norm and it's okay, and we lose our sensitivity toward those kinds of activities.